Let's have another little talk here about Fast and Furious, the Eric+holder debacle of gun running, which has led to the death of a border agent and the death of hundreds of Mexican citizens. You know, the Democrats have been pretty good, at having their surrogates lie for them, misrepresent different things. They're, again, trying to blame President Bush for the gun running that has occurred under President Obama's administration, under the watchful eye of eric+holder. Let's take a look at what happened. What did George Bush do? Now, this is my understanding. I don't have the top secret documents. President Bush, I believe it was in 2007, did have a similar type program. However, each weapon, okay, well, let me back up. President Bush's program worked hand in hand with the Mexican government. Okay, Mexican police and U.S. police had a coordinated effort. Each weapon had an RF tag, an ID tag, inserted into the gun. These guns were then allowed to go into the hands of, drug runners, cartel members, whoever it might be. Each of those guns was then tracked by aircraft, satellite, whatever methods they had. They were able to see where these guns were going, how they were moving, whose hands they were getting in. Not so in President Obama's program. But let's back up with President Bush again. Let's recap. He had the government involved. He had the police involved. Everybody was on board. Everybody knew what was happening. The guns were tagged. The guns were tracked. Eventually, they figured out that these guns had RF tags on them, and they started removing the RF tags. At that point, the program was no longer valid. The program was shut down. Okay? What happened with Operation Fast and Furious? Well, you have everybody denying anybody knew anything. Then, of course, a couple of months pass, and all of a sudden, oh, yeah, I remember. I think the Attorney General called it I can't remember exactly the term he used. It was basically an evolving truth. That's what it was, an evolving truth. See, if you lie, and then months later, when you're busted, because now there's documentation, now it's not a lie, you just misremembered, and now it's an evolving truth. See, that's how it is. You lie, you lie, you lie. When you're in the government, it's not a lie. It's just a misremembering. And eventually when you're caught, oh, well, yeah, I guess you're right. It's an evolving truth. Well, what happened is all these weapons weren't tracked at all. This was done under the radar. Mexican government, Mexican law enforcement knew nothing about it. These guns just filtered over to Mexico and just were there to slaughter Mexican citizens, murder a U.S. Border Patrol agent, and the cover-up, the cover-up continues. But I think it's a little deeper than that. Most people who try to keep up to speed or have done any amount of research on Eric+holder and President Obama know that they absolutely hate guns. They don't like the Second Amendment. And frankly, every socialist and dictator around the world hates when the people are armed. Why? Go read the words of our founders of why they allowed, the Second Amendment to be put in there and why they wanted the American citizen to have arms. And it wasn't for deer hunting. Do a little homework. If you care about your country and you care about your rights, do this much. Go look at the words of the founders, all right? But, if you think I'm kidding, let me, I'm going to play something for you here. This is the words of Eric+holder right here. This is what he thinks we need to do.
Monday. We need to do this every day of the week and just really brainwash people into thinking about guns in a vastly different way.
That's right. You heard him. He wants to brainwash you into thinking of guns in a vastly different way. Well, let's see. If you had, several thousand automatic assault weapons, purchased by taxpayers through the U.S. government and given to bad people, cartels and people who wish ill will on the United States. And all of a sudden, these guns start showing up at crime scenes and dead bodies, both here and in Mexico. Well, don't you think that then the president would stand up and be like, wow, these gun dealers, they're breaking the law. They're selling guns to people, and people are dying. I need to do something about this. And then he creates an opening for him to go in there and clamp down on the gun laws. Eric Holder runs around, saying we need to, have all these advertisements. We need to brainwash people. I'm a gun owner. I'm a law-abiding gun owner. I don't walk around, at night, 2 o'clock in the morning, hanging out on street corners. I don't wear certain colors. I don't sit there and do this stuff with my hands. I'm a responsible gun owner. I don't want to use my gun. I have a slow fuse. All I want is the ability, if my life or the life of my loved ones or the life of another citizen is threatened, I simply want the ability to be able to protect myself, protect my children, protect other citizens. That's all. I don't walk around here selling dope, not liking someone because they don't have the right color bandana on or they don't know how to show their cripple fingers or whatever, But he wants to take my right away because he's got a bunch of thugs running around on the streets, and instead of arresting them, instead of clamping down on them, he wants to take them away from everybody. Well, folks, that I think is what was behind Fast and Furious. That's why the Mexican government didn't know about it. That's why it was kept in the dark. And, unfortunately, a United States Border Patrol agent lost his life, and several hundred Mexicans have lost their lives. How can the president sit there and say that he's so concerned about, Hispanic rights when apparently he's got no problem giving automatic weapons to drug dealers so they can go down into Mexico and just slaughter them on the street? We all see them. Well, no, actually we don't, because our media doesn't show you what happens. They don't show you the violence that is on the border towns, that does occasionally spill over to our side. They don't show you the decapitated bodies. They don't show you, the vehicles with body parts from 18 different bodies in them, or the, the dismembered bodies. And matter of fact, the one that was most sickening that I saw, they had decapitated heads that were skinned. There was no skin; they just skinned the whole face, and they set the heads out there. And the torch just threw the torsos out there as a warning. Just said it looked like it was by a movie theater. American people don't see this. I guarantee you, if the American public saw this type of stuff, there would be such a clamoring and an outcry. We would have our military on that border saying, no more. Not another single person should cross that line. Because, look, folks, our most porous border, where we have the largest influx, is the U.S.-Mexico border. But it's not just Mexicans coming in. There's something called OTM. It's called Other Than Mexican. Thousands and thousands. We have people from the Middle East streaming in over here. Who are the people that attacked us on 9/11? Are these suicide bombers? What's going on? If people are streaming in from anywhere, that needs to be stopped. But, you got to deal with the biggest problem first. Deal with it all, but focus on the biggest problem. That should be how you deal with it. But this Fast and Furious, this is just a failed scheme. And I'm sorry that U.S. Border Patrol agent, Agent Terry, had to, he didn't have to die. But he died. His death has brought, it's brought a spotlight to what the hell is going on. This failed program. How many more people would have had to have died? How many, would that have given the president the opportunity to go in there and create a problem for him to come in and ride in on his big white horse and solve? Is that what this was about? Well, if anything good came of Agent Terry's death, it was the fact that it shed light on this just bungled program. And I'll tell you what, someone needs to go to jail. Somebody needs to go to jail. The government shouldn't be immune from doing just hideous and horrendous actions like this. You know, they've allowed guns to go somewhere that have slaughtered people. You know, I think if someone leaves a gun sitting out on a table and a kid picks it up and shoots his friend, even accidentally, you know, the parent's charged, you know, typically, you know, something like involuntary manslaughter, because, you know, certainly the parent didn't want anyone to get killed. And I'm not, you know, I can't say that the president, Eric+holder, didn't want people to get killed as a result. What did they think would happen when you put automatic weapons in the hands of criminals? People are going to die, both good and bad, you know. But I think they looked at it as collateral damage, that people had to die in order to, you know, in order for them to have the ends justify the means, to clamp down on guns. You know, like I said, I carry, you know, for protection. I hope never, ever, ever to use my firearm. I hope I never have to. But I thank God that the founders, in their wisdom, have allowed me the opportunity to protect myself, protect my family, protect citizens. You know, it's not just about having it in the house. Crime doesn't stop at the front door. Crime is everywhere. And frankly, I would rather have a firearm and not need it than need one and not have it. You know, and, you know, cops can't be everywhere. Frankly, cops respond to more crime than they probably prevent. You know, because they're not fortune tellers. You know, the American people need to, you know, stand up and take a little bit of responsibility for themselves, for their own protection. Be aware of what's going on. When criminals know that bad behavior like this isn't going to be tolerated, maybe they won't do it so much. But stop being cowards. Stand up for yourselves. Question the authority of our leaders. And, you know, think about what I said. And if it makes sense to you, talk to your friends. Talk to your neighbors. If not, go ahead and stick your head back in the sand and and hope you never end up at the wrong end of a gun or a knife or a rapist, you know, whatever it might be, you know. So, but just, if you don't like guns, don't take my ability away to, you know, protect myself. If you want to put your life in the hands of law enforcement, so be it. But, you know, don't bash me for me wanting the ability to defend myself, my family, and citizens abroad. So, anyway, just some things to think about on Fast and Furious. It's not over yet. Oh, I think you're going to see some fireworks. So, anyway, folks, I appreciate you watching and listening.